The WNBA might not exist in 6 months. And before you dismiss this as clickbait, this isn't coming from some random Twitter troll or a disgruntled fan. This is coming from David Samson, a 16-year Major League Baseball president who just went on national radio and said the league could literally fold this year. Gone. The man who ran the Miami Marlins for nearly 2 decades, who currently hosts a business show with the former CEO of ESPN, just dropped a bomb that nobody in the mainstream media wants to touch. The WNBA owners are ready to pull the plug, and here's the part that should terrify every player in that league. They just voted to authorize a strike right now. After the best season in WNBA history, after finally getting momentum, after Caitlin Clark brought millions of new fans to the game, the players are threatening to walk away from the most generous offer they've ever received. An offer that would pay max players $2 million by the final year. $2 million. And they're saying it's not good enough. Let's be crystal clear about what's happening here. This isn't about sexism. This isn't about lack of support. This is about basic economics crashing into unrealistic expectations, and the collision could destroy everything the league has built over 28 years. Many of you have been saying this for weeks in the comments. You saw this coming. You noticed the disconnect between what players were demanding and what the business could actually support. You were onto something. If you believe the story behind the story matters, if you think we need to cut through the noise and look at the actual numbers, hit that like button. It tells us we're covering what really matters, not just the narratives everyone else is pushing. Here's what David Samson actually said on the Dan Le Batard show, and I'm quoting him directly. Players are not going to get it. Owners will in the WNBA really trying to get a landing spot for tons of issues. If the players are not going to move on a revenue split versus derive revenue share off of a fixed number, maybe the end of the WNBA. Not maybe they'll have a tough negotiation. Not maybe there will be delays. Maybe the end of the WNBA. Those were his exact words. And this isn't some talking head with a hot take. This is a man who spent 16 years running a professional sports franchise. He knows what it looks like when owners are done playing games. He knows what conversations are happening behind closed doors. And he's telling us, publicly, that the league could cease to exist if players keep pushing. Let me break down what's actually on the table right now, because the details matter. The WNBA owners are offering a maximum base salary of $1 million in 2026. That could reach $1.3 million through revenue-sharing bonuses. The current max salary is $249,000. We're talking about quadrupling max salaries. Quadrupling. The average salary would jump from $120,000 to over $530,000 in year 1-2s, and grow to $770,000 over the life of the agreement. The minimum salary, what the lowest paid players would make, would be $250,000, $250,000, for a league that has never turned a profit, not once, not in 28 years of existence. The NBA has subsidized this league to the tune of tens of millions of dollars every single year. They've been patient, they've been supportive, they brought in a massive new media rights deal, they increased investment, and now the players are threatening to strike because they want more. They want what the NBA has. They want 50-50 revenue sharing. They want to be paid like NBA players. Here's the problem with that. The NBA makes $10 billion a year. The WNBA loses money every single year. You cannot split revenue that doesn't exist. You cannot demand 50% of negative earnings. This is where basic math meets wishful thinking, and David Samson called it out directly. He said the players made a huge mistake, and this is crucial. By declaring that this is their moment, they put all this pressure on themselves to get everything right now. Everything. Housing stipends, charter flights, massive salary increases, full revenue sharing, all at once, for a league that's bleeding money. And when you demand everything at once, Samson said, you risk getting nothing at all. Nothing. Think about what he's really saying here. The players should have been strategic. They should have taken incremental benefits through multiple agreements. Get your salary increase now, lock it in, make bank, then come back in 3 years after the owners have actually made money from the new media rights deal and negotiate again. That's how smart unions operate. That's exactly how the NBA Players Association built their power over decades. Baby steps, compound growth, long-term thinking. But the WNBA players want to skip straight to the finish line. They want NBA money without NBA revenue. They want to be paid based on potential instead of actual performance. And the owners, according to Samson, are fed up. Here's something most people don't want to acknowledge. The NBA owners, who also own WNBA teams, have been subsidizing this league since 1997, 28 years of losses, hundreds of millions of dollars. They've been patient. They've been supportive. They've absorbed endless criticism for not doing enough. And now the players are threatening to strike over an offer that would make them all significantly wealthier. Connecting the dots here reveals something uncomfortable. The owners want to be paid back for all those years of losses. They want to see a return on their investment before they start handing out NBA-level contracts. That's not greed. That's basic business sense. You don't get profit sharing when there's no profit to share. And here's where it gets really dangerous for the players. Samson specifically mentioned that if you wanted to start a league to compete with the WNBA, this is the perfect time. Every single WNBA player is essentially a free agent right now if there's no collective bargaining agreement. Well-capitalized investors could poach every star player. Project B, unrivaled. Alternative leagues with deep pockets are watching this negotiation very closely. You know what happens if those investors make their move. The WNBA dies. Not because of sexism, not because of lack of support. It dies because the players got greedy and killed their own league. 28 years of building, gone, because they couldn't accept a deal that would quadruple their salaries. Adam Silver and the NBA would wash their hands of it and move on. And honestly, who could blame them? Now here's where David Samson said something that nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to consider. He asked a simple question. If the WNBA folds, who would actually care? 2.5 million viewers tuned in for the record-breaking games last season. Now that sounds impressive until you realize the NBA Finals averaged over 11 million viewers. The WNBA's biggest games are getting the same numbers as a regular season NBA matchup on a random Tuesday night. Samson's point was brutal but accurate. If the WNBA disappeared tomorrow, would mainstream America even notice? Would it trend on social media for more than a day? Or would it just become another footnote in sports history, a league that had potential but couldn't figure out the business side? These are uncomfortable questions, but they're real questions. And the fact that a major sports executive is asking them out loud should be a wake-up call. Let's talk about what you've been noticing in the comments, the disconnect between player demands and league reality. The WNBA just had its best season ever. Caitlin Clark brought unprecedented attention. Playoff games were selling out. Corporate sponsors were finally writing serious checks. This should be a moment of celebration and building momentum. Instead, we're talking about whether the league will exist next year. Reading between the lines of Samson's comments, something else becomes clear. The owners are tired of being painted as the bad guys. They've subsidized this league for decades. They've taken losses year after year. They've invested in infrastructure, marketing, and player development. And every single time they don't give players exactly what they want, they're accused of not supporting women's sports. Drop a comment right now and tell me, do you think the players should take this deal? Because I want to know if I'm reading the situation correctly. Are we watching players about to make the biggest mistake in WNBA history, or is there something I'm missing? Let me know your thoughts. Here's what makes this even more frustrating. The deal on the table includes revenue sharing, just not the kind the players want. It's based on hitting certain financial targets. If the league turns a profit, players get bonuses. If revenue grows beyond projections, Salaries increase. That's smart business. That aligns incentives. Everyone wins together. But the players want guaranteed percentages regardless of whether the league makes money. That's not revenue sharing. That's just demanding more money with zero accountability. They want to be paid based on what they think they deserve, not what the business can actually support. Let's get real about the internal dynamics here. You've got max-level players like Breanna Stewart and A'ja Wilson who are making around $250,000 now. This deal would get them to $2 million. Life-changing money. But they're also the ones with overseas options. They can make six figures playing in Europe or Turkey during the off-season. They have leverage. Then you've got role players making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Women who don't have endorsement deals. Women who can't command big overseas contracts. Women who are one injury away from being out of the league, and the stars are telling them to reject an offer that would guarantee them $250,000 minimum. How long before those role players say, you know what, I'm taking my raise? The average WNBA career is maybe 4 or 5 years to maybe. So if you're a 25-year-old role player making $80,000 right now, and someone offers you $250,000 guaranteed, you take it. You don't risk your financial future because the stars want to make a political statement. That's not courage. That's common sense. Samson was clear about what happens if players don't move on this issue. He said, maybe the end of the WNBA. Not definitely, not probably, just maybe. But the fact that a respected sports executive with 16 years running a franchise is even floating that possibility should terrify everyone involved. This isn't some random media personality trying to generate clicks. This is someone who understands how billionaire owners think, saying the nuclear option is on the table. And I don't think he's bluffing. The NBA owners have been patient for 28 years. They've lost hundreds of millions of dollars. They've absorbed endless criticism. They've invested in marketing and infrastructure. They brought in a $2.2 billion media rights deal. And now the players are threatening to strike unless they get paid like NBA players who generate actual profit. At some point, even the most supportive owner says enough is enough. At some point, the conversation shifts from how do we grow this league to why are we still doing this? That's the moment David Samson is warning us about. That's the moment the WNBA is approaching if players don't accept reality. Think about public perception for a second. If the WNBA folds because players rejected a deal that would quadruple their salaries, how does that play out? Do casual fans side with the players, or do they say those women got greedy and killed their own league? My guess is most people would blame the players, fairly or not. That's how it would be perceived in the court of public opinion. People struggling to pay bills and working multiple jobs don't have a lot of sympathy for athletes rejecting million-dollar contracts because they want more. That's just reality. The media would debate it for weeks. Social media would explode, and most of those takes would not be sympathetic to the players. Here's what makes this situation tragic. The WNBA finally had momentum. After years of struggling for attention, they had a breakout season. Caitlin Clark was must-watch TV. Angel Reese created storylines people cared about. The product on the court was better than ever. And instead of riding that wave and building on it, the players are threatening to torpedo it all over money that doesn't exist yet. Samson mentioned something crucial. He said the biggest mistake the players made was calling this their moment. They talked themselves into a corner. They got fans and media hyped up about transformational change. And now, anything less than full NBA-style revenue sharing looks like failure. That's terrible negotiating. You never publicly declare you're going all in. You keep your cards close and take what you can get. The players should have learned from other leagues. Look at the NFL. Their union has been negotiating with billionaire owners for decades. And you know what they do? They pick their battles. They prioritize certain issues each negotiation. Health and safety, one time. Guaranteed contracts, another time. They don't demand everything at once because they know that's how you get nothing. If you found this deep dive valuable, if you want to stay ahead of where this story goes next, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Because trust me, this negotiation is about to get even more intense. We're going to break down every move, every counteroffer, every leak from inside the negotiations. You don't want to miss what happens next. Here's my prediction. The players will cave within the next few weeks. They'll accept this deal and spin it as a victory. They'll say they fought hard and got historic raises. The media will praise them, and everyone will pretend like the league wasn't on the verge of folding. But make no mistake, this was a warning shot. The owners just showed they're willing to pull the plug if pushed too far. Maybe that's good. Maybe the players needed someone like David Samson to publicly say the league could end. Because the alternative is they keep pushing until the owners actually do shut it down. And then there's no coming back, no second chances, no do-overs. Just a league that could have been, but destroyed itself through greed. The WNBA is at a crossroads. One path leads to sustained growth, increased salaries, long-term stability. The other path leads to shutdown, unemployed players, and a cautionary tale about biting the hand that feeds you. Which path will they choose? We're about to find out. And the answer could reshape women's professional basketball forever.